The icy wind bit through his threadbare coat as he stepped onto the marble steps of the grand hall, his shoulders squared against the murmurs that trailed in his wake. The laughter, laced with mockery, echoed like knives scraping against glass. Their tailored suits and glittering dresses spoke of privilege. Their eyes filled with amusement as they looked at him, just another desperate man who didn't belong. His presence alone disrupted the pristine elegance of their world, an unwelcome smudge on the perfection they prided themselves on. A woman in an expensive gown whispered behind her delicate hand, her gaze flicking to his worn-out boots. Did he get lost on his way to the shelter? Maybe he thought this was a soup kitchen. Another man chuckled, swirling the golden liquid in his crystal glass. He stood still, unbothered. If they only knew. If they had the slightest inkling of who he truly was, their smirks would vanish in an instant. But he let them jeer, let them weave their own illusions. It was easier that way. People revealed their truest selves when they thought they were above you. He had learned that lesson in the bitter cold of the streets, where kindness was scarce and cruelty came wrapped in empty promises. A waiter hesitated before approaching. "Sir, I believe you might be in the wrong place." He smiled a slow, knowing smile that sent a ripple of unease through those who noticed. "No," he said, his voice smooth as polished stone. "I'm exactly where I need to be." The atmosphere shifted. There was something unsettling about the way he carried himself, the quiet confidence in his stance. The laughter dimmed, replaced with curiosity. Who was he? What business did he have here? And why, despite his apparent lack of wealth, did he seem wholly unimpressed by the extravagance surrounding him? Then, the doors at the far end of the hall swung open, and she entered. The woman who had unknowingly become the key to his plans. Her gaze skimmed over the crowd before landing on him. She faltered, just for a second, before masking it with an expression of careful indifference. He had chosen her for a reason. The perfect puzzle piece to fit into the intricate game he was playing. A woman of quiet strength, someone who carried secrets of her own. He needed a wife, or at least the illusion of one. A woman who could stand beside him in the ruthless world he was about to re-enter. A world that had once cast him aside, thinking he would never return. Their arrangement had been simple, a contract, a fey aid of a marriage for mutual benefit. She would get security. He would get the credibility required to reclaim what was rightfully his. No love, no complications. Just an agreement bound by ink and necessity. But as the night wore on, as eyes turned toward them with interest and speculation, he had anticipated the skepticism, the lingering doubts. He had expected the whispers, the carefully concealed glances. What he hadn't expected was the way his pulse quickened when she took his arm. How the warmth of her touch seeped through his cold exterior, unsettling something deep within him. It was dangerous, because he wasn't meant to feel. Not after everything. But feelings had a way of creeping in when least expected, weaving themselves into the cracks of a carefully constructed plan. And as the evening progressed, as the walls of the past threatened to close in around him, he realized something that sent a rare shiver of unease down his spine. This was supposed to be a game, a necessary deception. But the moment he saw the way they looked at her, some with envy, others with interest, something dark uncoiled inside him. He hadn't planned for this. He hadn't accounted for the unfamiliar sensation clawing at his chest. Possession. He had fought for everything in his life, clawed his way up from nothing. He had built an empire from the ashes of betrayal, forged his name into something untouchable. But now, for the first time in years, he was afraid, not of losing his wealth, Not of the enemies lurking in the shadows, waiting for him to stumble, but of losing her, the one thing he was never meant to want. As the night drew to a close, as she slipped her hand from his and turned away, he knew with an unsettling certainty he could no longer let her go. But what if she was already planning to leave? What if she had secrets of her own, ones that could shatter everything he had so carefully built? The realization struck like a cold blade against his ribs. He had spent years keeping his heart locked away, encased in ice. But ice could crack. And when it did, it was never silent. It was never gentle. The game had changed. And this time, the stakes were far higher than he had ever anticipated.